Hey, welcome to Ultimate Survival Tips. I'm David. I'm glad you're here. Now, I get a lot of questions from guys that are new to survival and prepping. So today we're going back to the basics to learn how to properly use a Ferrocerium Firesteel rod and knife. Start a life-saving and soul-warming blaze. Along the way, I'll show you how to avoid some common mistakes and share a few tips on how to get a fire going quickly. Come on, let's get started. Here's what you'll need to start a fire with Firesteel and a knife. First, you'll need some really dry tinder. This is the fine stuff. You need dry tinder because this is one of the major keys to success. Dry grass or weeds, fine dry wood shavings, twine pulled apart, dryer lint or cotton balls all make great tinder for those just starting out. Next, you'll need a campfire all set up and ready to go. I recommend a teepee fire for beginners. We'll talk more about this in a minute. You'll also need some comfortable gloves and a Ferrocerium FireRod like the Becker, Grylls, Schrade, and Exotac rods that I have here. And last but not least, you'll need a fixed blade knife. Now set up your teepee fire with your dry tinder on a dry surface like sticks or a rock. Add kindling and top it off with some larger sticks for fuel. Next, we'll need our knife. Just about any sturdy fixed blade knife with a 90-degree squared off and uncoated spine will do. For this first demonstration, I've selected a Becker Grylls survival knife because it's a popular one with those just getting into survival. And with its included FireRod and well-designed notched, coating-free striker area on the spine towards the handle, it's a perfect knife to start with. Now if you're using a new FireRod like the one that comes with this Becker Grylls knife, you'll need to remove the dark rust-inhibiting coating from the portion of the rod you're going to strike. To do this, angle the spine of your blade and scrape off a good bit of the coating. It should look like this once you're done, and throw a nice shower of sparks. Now most beginners make the mistake of striking the FireRod by pushing the knife over the rod toward the fire. This often results in too many sparks falling short of the tinder, and by pushing your knife out toward the fire, you run the risk of knocking the fire over as your hand travels forward, which can be really frustrating. So here's the right way to do it. With gloves on, hold the knife firmly with your strong hand, spine facing down, and the edge facing up like this. Brace your hand on the ground close to your tinder for support. Now grip the FireRod with your other hand and bring it under your knife spine, tilting it at about a 45-degree angle to the blade. Now to generate sparks, pull the FireRod towards you while it rubs against the edge of the knife spine like this. Now individual streams of sparks may not be enough to easily start your blaze, especially if your tinder is just a little bit moist. So here's a technique used by the experts. Make sure you've got your leather gloves on and rub your FireRod back and forth on the knife spine like this. When done right, this technique produces vital heat to quickly dry your tinder and bring its temperature to the point of combustion. Now after a minute or two, if you can't get a fire, your tinder is probably too wet or may not be the proper material. So if you have a choice, you may want to find new tinder. If not, keep trying. It might take up to 20 minutes to get a fire going in wet or humid situations. I'll talk more about how to find or make dry tinder when it's wet out in a future video. Now if you have a knife that has a thick coating to prevent rust, like my 1095 high carbon steel K-bar Becker BK2 or this new Schrade SCHF 37 Bushcraft knife, it may be difficult or even impossible to get a spark from your FireRod. But it is possible with a little good, bad, or ugly improvising. Let's start with the bad. Although you can get a spark, I don't recommend using the blade of your knife to strike your FireRod because it will dull and possibly ruin your blade. This is bad. Now the ugly. In the field, find a large flat stone and rub the spine back and forth to remove the coating until you get a nice strike. But like I said, this technique is ugly, so you might cry when you get home. Now the good way is to plan ahead and use a small flat file to remove a section of the coating on the spine toward the handle and square up the edges for a nice striking surface. Now since you may be exposing steel that is not stainless, you can dab a bit of gun bluing in the notch that you just made to inhibit rust. One last thing. Since practice makes perfect, get out and use your FireRod and knife. Here's a simple way to get some experience without starting an entire campfire. Grab a cotton ball and add a dab of petroleum jelly. This will allow the cotton ball to burn much longer. To prepare your cotton ball tinder, simply pull it apart a bit, expanding it to 2 or 3 times its original size so that it literally catches the sparks. Then follow the steps we've talked about earlier, and with a strike or two you should have a nice little practice fire in no time. We've just taken a look at how to start a blaze with Firesteel and a knife. For your convenience, I've included links to all the gear that I've mentioned in the video description on YouTube. Just click the Show More tab under this video. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And for more gear reviews, survival tips, and survival news, check out ultimatesurvivaltips.com. And while you're there, grab our monthly survival e-mag, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter to get the latest news and be the first to hear about the great gear giveaway contests we have planned. Okay, this is David. I hope to see you on the other side, and remember, be prepared because you never know.